and not uploading anything. All right, so this one's going to be another practical one where we're going to continue looking at market structure, but using the examples of what we've been seeing on the scanner, right? And the replay tool, just so we can see how the market's been moving and how we start to apply some of the information that we went through last week. All right, some of this I would have said during those posts that I put in the chat. But we saw a lot more of what price did since then. All right, so go ahead and share the screen right here. All right, perfect. So what we should be seeing right now is a chart, right? I think everyone should have seen the chart at least once so far. Yep. Um, Oh, Chase is in here. All right, cool. So just so for Chase benefit or anyone that needs a refresher, what we're looking at right here is a platform called TradingView, right? It's a website that allows us to view the
Sorry, I
markets.
can't clean my clip right now. Oh, all right,
Okay.
come.
Uh,
Let's try to get an extra cool down.
being the like
Remember
the
the teacher
numbers
said
on the right
that
hand side
November
are too
is going to
small
be sharp.
or what? Let me know what is not visible. In the meantime, I'm trying to make these things bigger. I'm gonna make this text on these numbers on the side bigger, and then it will zoom into everything else shortly. All right, too small. All right, no worries. That's the numbers on the right hand side. Just made those bigger, but I'm gonna get into everything else that's on the screen in a second. But for now, let me just run you through real quick what we are actually seeing here. So this is TradingView. TradingView does two things. All right, this shows us how price has been moving depending on the pairs that we're looking at, right? So we're going to be looking at gold for now. These numbers on the right represent price, and these numbers at the bottom, they represent time, right? So this chart tells us the fluctuations of price over time. If you're looking here close to the top of the screen, you're going to see 1M, 3M, 5M, 15, 30, 1H, 4H, etc., etc. Those are the different time frames that we can look at this information on. All right. And time frames are going to be important. So what this basically means is, let me zoom in here. When we see these rectangles on the screen, depending on the time frame that we're looking at, is going to tell us how long it took for one of these to form. All right. So right now, this candle right here, we are on the 1 hour time frame. So every single rectangle that you see here represents 1 hour. All right. So let me just give you this example. Going from, we're on the daily time frame now. So each of these candles represents 1 day. So we are going to take a look at this one right here, right? This would have been yesterday. This is today. Well, the last time the market was open would have been Friday. All right. So we're going to put a vertical line right here. That represents the whole day. All right. So if you look at the 4 hour, since we're talking about Friday, that is going to tell us, let's see. Actually, let's not do Friday because Friday the market closes early. So let's go back to something like Thursday, Wednesday, anything like that. So we get a full 24 hours to play with. All right, so this is where I put the line for Wednesday. But this Wednesday, right now, this line is on 17, so at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. So we want to get to the beginning of Wednesday, right, which is going to be this candle. And we're going to show where the ending of Wednesday is right here. Let me change this color, make sure this is nice and visible for us. All right. So now that we are on the 4 hour time frame, all right, each of these candles is going to represent 4 hours. Since we got 24 hours in a day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From there to here is 1 day. So if you go back to the daily, right, there's going to be a bit of crossover. What? 6 candles, 4 hour time frame. If we go down to the 1 hour, there are going to be a lot more candles in between these two white ones, these two white vertical lines. All right, so since it's a day, there are going to be 24 of these in here. If we go to 30-minute, of course, that means there are going to be 48 of those in here, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so it's a lot like when someone asks you, hey, what did you do today? If you just give them the most vague answer, it's like, oh, I didn't do anything. I just stayed home, right? That's like your overview. You know you didn't leave home, but you also really don't want to spend your time telling them, giving them a complete play by play. If that was a chart, that'd be like the daily time frame, right? It doesn't give you any deep information, but you get an overview. You get an understanding of, okay, I know that Chase stayed home today. When we get down to the 1 hour, this has a bit more detail, but it's not super detailed. You say, well, I didn't do much. I stayed home. I had breakfast, did some work, played a game, took a nap. No, I'm here. That's it, right? But then if you wanted to get super detailed, you could go down to the 5 minute, the 3 minute, the 1 minute time frame, and then you will get something like this. All right. So all of these little rectangles in here represent all the detail of stuff that happened over this 24-hour period. And when we're trading, we utilize all of these different time frames to help us make a determination of what we are going to do in these markets. Promise is going to make this make sense, tie this all together. So on the, where's my, all right, so for the daily time frame, I'm just going to put a D for that. The daily time frame, we try to get an understanding of the direction, right? So we would go on the daily time frame just to get an understanding of, okay, what direction is price going in? Because if we want to buy or sell, we need to know if we want to buy or sell based on where price is actually going. So if we go on the daily and it looks like it's going down, then we want to be selling. If it looks like it's going up, then we want to be buying. So we go on the daily time frame to figure out that direction. The 4 hour, right, along with the direction, the 4 hour can give us an idea of, it can also do the direction, but it can also give us an idea of the trend, right? Because it has a bit more detail in there. So we could go direction slash trend. When we get to the 1 hour, and I'm going to call these the high time frames, mid, time frames, like the 1 hour. This for sure is going to tell us the trend, and something like the 1 hour to the 15 minute that could give us the trend. And then the low time frame, these are now the details. This gives us the uh, 5 minute to 1 minute. These are going to give us our entries, right? This is going to tell us, okay, this is when we're going to get into the market, right? We want those low time frames so we know the exact moment that we are going to get into the market, right? That's what these different time frames are doing for us. And we utilize all of them. All right. So yesterday, when the market opened around 6 o'clock yesterday, we would have seen this gap get created, right? So normally these candles, they form like one after each other, right? And they usually form next to each other. But this one, it just appeared way down here. And that happens because when the market is closed on Friday, people are still doing business into the weekend. But these platforms like the charts, these brokers, they're open like regular people that have regular jobs. So 5 o'clock they close and then they're going to open back on Monday. But since price has already been doing its thing all day, the next time they open up, it's just going to show you where price is right now, right? And then that's where there's going to be this gap, this situation right here. So when all of this occurred, on we got a signal on the scanner telling us that we have a potential sell on the 15 minute. Let's see. All right, so we got this right here. So what did you just need for you to do, right? For me right now, we can just assume that we know how the scanner works, right? Something happens, and then we're going to get this box that shows up. If it's red, it's going to tell us to sell. If it's blue, it's going to be telling us to buy. So yesterday we got this setup telling us that we can sell from up here. However, price is down here, right? So we have this potential setup. And when they say setup, it's a trade opportunity. It's like someone calling you and telling you, like, hey, listen to me. When price gets all the way up to 4,115, you might want to sell gold. That's all this means. But you have to wait for price to get there. All right. So as a beginner, if you were to see something like this, you know in your mind that price needs to go up to get there. The only way that's going to happen is if there's an opportunity to buy, right? Anytime we're talking about going up, that means buy. If we're talking about selling, that means going down. So the only way we can get from 4,080 to up to the top is we have to get a buy. And that's it. Let me know if you're following me so far, right? Where we currently are, it said we can sell, but we can't sell right this second. We have to wait for price to get up to that red box. Cool. So since we have that, right? Since that showed up, what we need to figure out is okay, on the 15 minute, did I delete that already? Jeez. Let's see if I could get that back. All right, here we go. Give me 1 second, please. Um, right. So the 15 minute, that tells us what the trend is. All right. Tells us the trend. But since we have this potential entry on the 15 minute, what we would do is we need to make sure that this setup that showed up is going with the trend. All right. So that means we just need to go back and take a look and see if we can identify what the trend is. That makes sense? All right. I just want, like, I know a lot of these words and things that I'm saying is going to feel a little new, but I just want you to show what the process is. The scanner itself is going to tell you, hey, this is an opportunity to buy and this is an opportunity to sell. And you could literally just wait until price gets there and then press the button and do what you got to do. But if you were learning it, if you're learning this thing for real, right? If you're learning this thing for real, then you got to know something called market structure, right? And that's just basically how the market is moving. And all right, let me talk about that real quick. So we have the opportunity to sell, and this is how the market moves. Let me just recap this. This is a pattern that shows up every single time. Anytime that we need to sell, we're going to see something that looks like this. It's not going to be as pretty as this all the time, but it's pretty much going to be this. And if I'm talking about a trend, that is price creating this pattern multiple times. All right. So it's just doing this all the time. That'll be a trend. I want you to look when you see two of these. This is like recognizing letters of the alphabet. So, we have to learn shapes. So, like, this is a A, a B, a C, whatever. If this is a letter, this right here is a word. Okay? This is a letter, this is a word. Word is made up of a bunch of letters. Letter, we just need to be able to recognize it. If we can recognize the letter itself, then we can put words and sentences together. Things are going to start making sense. Now, with this pattern that shows up, the simplest thing that I need you guys just to know, this is not the how, this is just what happens. When this pattern shows up, we want to sell right here. All right. So price is going to start at this point. We call this A. It's going to come down to B. It's going to come back up a bit, not as high as A was. It's going to come here and then it's going to continue going down. Right. That's just how a sell works. And this is the point where we would want to sell from. All right here. Um, when this pattern shows up and it does itself, multiplies itself more than once, we have something called a trend, and it's going to be made up of lower highs and lower lows. Lower highs and lower lows. Once we keep getting lower highs and lower lows, we are in a downtrend. Right? That's how we identify this. If at any point we stop getting lower highs or lower lows, that is a signal, that is an indicator that we are probably not going down anymore. Okay. Now, the dots to connect is the area that we always want to sell from is going to be this higher low is where we want to sell from every single time. All right. So when we go back over here to the 15 minute and we look at the scanner, this area right here, if we figure out what the trend is, right? If we identify the trend, that area should be a lower high. I wrote it wrong. It should be a lower high. All right, LH. So this should be a lower high. So we just going to spend a little time. We're going to draw some lines on this chart to see if it lines up to be a lower high. So let me get rid of some of this noise. Let's see if we can make this make sense. All right. So all we do, we pick a random point on this chart to start, and then we can move from there. So if we started from here, this is the high point here. Price came down here, came up here, came down, came up, pretty much came down, came up, and came down. And this happened, then this happened, this happened, this happened. And we are now around here. So we started over here. We started over here, and we are all the way down here. If you were just looking at this, right, what direction are we going? Just type in the chat. Are we going up? Or are we going down? Promise you, not a trick question. All right, we're going down. Overall, we are going down. That is great. We are on the 1 hour time frame. All right, cool. So based on this 1 hour time frame, this right here is a lower high. This is a lower low. Oof. This is a lower low as well. Um, I don't want to get too technical, but sometimes with these charts, right? Like you can see that right here. You can see that right here, price did come up, right? But sometimes when we're looking at these markets, you would see that I ignored a bunch of these moves inside of here, right? That just means that based on where the high point is, when price did do this, which we call a pullback, it wasn't as significant. It wasn't enough movement to really warrant, okay, I should pay attention to this. You know, it's like the difference between a toddler crawling up to you and tapping you on your leg and your sibling slapping you on your leg. One of those things, they could just do this all the time and you just not even notice it, right? But when there's a bigger move, something that you can't ignore, then you pay attention to it. So here, this is a lower low, but based on this time frame, I would even pay attention to this, right? I would call this a lower high as opposed to calling this a lower high. All right, just work with me for a second. So this is the lower high, and then we don't have anything else just yet. All right, so let me just explain why these things are what they are. This is a lower, this is a lower low because this was the last low overhead. All right, jeez. This is a lower low because this is a previous low, and this low is lower than this low. This low is lower than this low, so this is a lower low as well. All right, this is a lower high, and then this high is lower than this high, so this is also a lower high. All right, so what this means is if this is a lower high, and this is a lower low, and this is a lower high, what we're looking for is to see if somewhere down here, if we get another lower low, which would be the same pattern that I mentioned earlier. All right, it's right here, same as this right here. We following so far? Step A, see if you're good. All right. So this point right here, where the trade was called, we aren't even talking about that just yet, right? We're just going through the process of using the time frames just to make sure that selling will be the right thing to do, right? So we already identified that we are going down, and we identify that on the 1 hour. So we need to get a bit more detailed, right? We need to come from the 1 hour, sorry, get to a lower time frame so we can get into those details. Those details are eventually going to give us where we need to enter, and how we take it from there. All right, 15 minute. All right, so here's the perspective that I want to show you real quick. I showed you this pattern just now. The point of this pattern that we're looking at right now is this section, right? Right now, we're looking at this section, right? Which is from the lower high down to the lower low. And the same thing applies, right? The same thing applies. The same way that, let me try it this way. This is the overall pattern on the 15 minute, sorry, on the 1 hour. On the 15 minute, this is actually happening on, yeah, this is happening on the 15 minute. All right. So I would have given you that long straight line, but it's actually going zigzaggy as it's going down, right? So that would look like this. From here, here, here. Uh, yeah, essentially something like this. All right. Now we got this zigzag stuff happening within this rectangle. All right. So now I want to try to simplify this for you guys a bit more. So you can see that this white line, it looks like there's a lot of zigzag stuff happening. All right. So we're just gonna look at it big picture overall. Just for this area that we're looking at, I'm gonna put some horizontal lines on the screen. I'm just gonna put A, B, C, D for this part. This is the highest point from where we started. This is the highest point. All right. So price started from here. It kept going down and down and down. And this point right here is the lowest point that it's been at so far, right down here. So we're gonna put a horizontal line down there too. And I'm going to call that B. From the lowest point that it got to, we're going to pay attention to the next highest point that it went to, which is right here. And we're going to call that C. And if this is going to continue going down, we want to see another point that is below B. All right. So this would have been A, B, C. D. All right, so we're gonna get rid of this zigzaggy white line. We're gonna simplify it to this A, B, C, and this is where we're at right now. Okay, so if you're looking at this right here, we have this happening. We want to see, um, we want to get down to the bottom of where this blue is, but right now we're around where this white arrow has stopped. All right. And there's an opportunity for us to get a entry for a sell so that we can make some money as price goes down. All right. From there, let me know if you're still following me. If you're still good, give me AC. Let me know if you are still good. All right. I don't want you to worry about if you could duplicate this on a chart for yourself personally, but I just want to know if what we've been talking about so far is making sense. All right, cool. And Chase, Fada, you are good so far, being your first call. That is fantastic for me. All right. So, a couple things that we would have known that we learned so far. All right. We know that in this world of trading, there are going to be different time frames that we can look at to get more information. All right. The daily and the 4 hour, we're looking at direction. We want to know, is price going up or is it going down? Real quick. When we get to the 1 hour to the 15 minute, we want to identify the trend, right? Are we seeing that pattern duplicating itself? And does that pattern support the direction that we saw before, right? We saw prices going down. We identified a trend. The trend is also going down. And we are currently close to where C is on the 15 minute. So what can we do? We can go to a lower time frame, right? We can go to a lower time frame to focus on that area where we're at right now, which is right here. Right. So instead of looking at this whole area, we're just gonna focus into where price is right now. All right. So let me bring this down. So since we have so much detail on the screen right now, um, C doesn't look like it's at a exact point, right? Doesn't look like it's at exact point. So what I'll do, let me delete some of these lines, but we just want to keep this together. All right. So, all right, a couple of things we're paying attention to. We know that we still have this pattern in mind, right? And we know that, geez, wrong thing. This part over here is this part right here. And we're currently somewhere around here trying to figure out if we could get this up. But we're letting this market structure situation, this up and down situation, allow us to understand this a bit better. So let's bring back up the scanner. So this was about 6:45. So what we're going to do, we're going to let some time pass, right? And see what starts to happen, right? We know that we have the opportunity to get a sell from up here. But before we can sell, right, we saw price come down like this. We still need it to come back up somewhere up here and see if we can get an entry so that we can continue going down. And that is the same pattern that we just spoke about, right? Same pattern. From here to down here, price came down, but we need it to go back up. When we are looking at that simple concept of price going up and down, something very important happens down here in order to tell us that it's changing direction. It's very similar to being in a car and you turn on your indicator. Like cars don't just do a 180, right? If cars are going this way and they got to go the opposite direction, they don't just magically just in a split second change direction. They got to slow down, stop, maybe do a 3-point turn, all sorts of stuff. All of that has to happen. So when you're looking at this market, I want you to imagine that that happens too. It doesn't just suddenly turn around. On a lower time frame, you're going to see all the changes that price does in order to tell you that it's turning around. So why am I telling you this? If we are below the point that we want to sell at, in order to get to where we want to sell at, if price has been coming down, we need it to stop going down and start going up. All right. I know that sounds simple, but work with me. We need price to stop going down and start going up. Now, one thing that you might be asking yourself, like Chase might be asking, is like, okay, that sounds simple, but how do I know when it stops going down? But let you know. And it's going to be the same thing that we've been talking about before. All right. So if you check your notes or the drawing that you would have made for a trend, all right, I said a trend is a series of lower lows, well, a downtrend is a series of lower lows and lower highs. An uptrend is a series of higher highs and higher lows. All right. So as since this came down, right, we want to see if it comes up. Like, where does it go? So that's the first thing that we're going to wait on. We're not doing anything just yet. We're just going to wait and see what happens because we need to see structure needs to form so that we can make a decision. All right. So here's the first thing. We saw price come down. It came to this point, and then it started to go back up. It didn't make it all the way up to where we were before, but it came up a bit. Right. And then it continued to go down. Right. It continued to go. Let's give me 1 second. All right. So, yes, so it continued to go down. So just this movement, it's the same pattern that I was showing you before. All right. We got A, B, C, D. If this is going to continue going down, here's what's going to happen. At some point, it's going to come back up again. We want it to give us a high point that's lower than this one. If it does that, it potentially would keep going down. If for whatever reason, well, sorry, as long as it keeps giving us these lower highs and lower lows, we could be more confident in the fact that it's going down, right? Now, what we wanted was we wanted to see price. Let me delete some of these. This is what it did. But what we were looking for is because the scanner gave us this sell from the top. We were hoping that price would come down and then come back up to here. All right. But it didn't do that. And that's okay. That's okay. By following what we see, we can save ourselves from losing some money. All right. So here's what happens next. I'm gonna press play and we're gonna see what happens. Do we continue going down? Do we come up and create a lower high? Or is it possible that we can end up getting a higher high? Something like this. All right. If we get a higher high, that will be an indication that price probably wants to go up. If we keep getting, all right, let me keep this on the screen just so it's clear. If we're going down, we want this. If at any point we stop getting lower lows and lower highs, we're gonna have to pause for a second. All right. Also, this blue box. I gotta tell you why this blue box was here. All right. Oh, it's a bit messy. All right, so just work with me for a second. So we were looking at a 15-minute, and we know that we had this opportunity to sell, right? We had this opportunity to sell up here. However, at the same time, on the 1 hour, right, we had this opportunity to buy. Okay, so we know that we wanted to sell. And feel free if this part gets a little confusing, but I'm going to try to take it as slow as possible without dragging it out too long. So, color. On one time frame, we have an opportunity to sell, which is up here. We know overall we're going down. Since we're going down, we should be looking for sells. Okay? Since we're going down on based on what's happening on the overall time frame, we are going down. So we should be only looking to sell. But here right now in this moment that we're looking at the scanner, there's an opportunity for us to buy. It's not necessarily a bad thing because if we, like I was saying earlier, if we wanted to sell from up here, price needs to get from this point up here. So it makes sense that there's an opportunity to buy when we're looking to sell from up here. The buy is just a way to get us in the position that we need in order to sell. Let me know if that feels like it makes sense for you. All right, cool. So let's go back to the 15-minute. All right. We're not going to see the scanners set up down on the 15-minute, but that's where this blue box is here. So on this time frame, we are aware that there's an opportunity to buy from down here. But we also know that all we want to do is sell. All right. So this is where it could get a little conflicting as a trader, just trying to figure out, okay, what should I actually be doing? So here's the perspective. If the trend is telling you that we are going down, your bias is for sells. If there's an opportunity to buy, While you're knowing that your bias is for sells, you're going to have to tell yourself, all right, no matter what this says, this is a short-term buy. I don't need to stay in this for a long time, right? Because price doesn't have to give you a fantastic buy. It doesn't have to go all the way up here because all the pressure is for price to keep going down. All right. So this blue box, the top of this blue box was an entry, right? For that buy. Actually, let me put in the take profits so we can see what happens. All right. So this yellow line and this yellow line, this was take profit one, this was take profit two. Okay. Price didn't quite, it came really close to the entry for that buy, but didn't quite hit it. Then this one came down and we're pretty much there. Let me make this bigger and I'm going to press play on this replay so we can take a look. All right. So based on this entry here, take profit one already hit for the buy, right? Take profit one came from here. Sorry, trade went from here. We got take profit one for the buy. Remember, our bias is still sells because it's short term. Now, here's what here's why maintaining your bias is going to help you. We know that overall, we had this move down. We had price come up here. This is a lower, this is a lower high. This was the main high. Lower high, then price came down here, created a lower low. Price came over here. This high is lower than this high. So this is also a lower high. And price started to push down. So let me know, guys, based on what you're seeing, are you seeing things that indicate the structure for a downtrend, a bearish trend so far? Yes. Okay. Even though the scanner told us, all right, we want to sell from up here in this red area, and there was a buy down here in this blue area, we knew those buys are short term. Did we get a short term buy? Absolutely. Price came from here, pushed all the way up to take profit one. Cool. If you held for take profit two, it didn't get there. And that's okay. So now let's see. Let's see what else happens. We haven't seen another setup for a sell pop up. So we just going to let this play through some more. All right. So actually one may have showed up. All right, let me just go backwards a little bit, see if we missed something. All right, here we go. So when price moved from here, came down to the entry area for the buy, that entry area was also a lower low. All right. I'm trying really hard not to confuse you guys with what I'm saying, but I'm hoping that it's still making sense because the entry for the buy was also that indication of a lower low, right? Which works with our bias. So the scanner said, hey, you could probably sell from here. The stop loss would have been up here. So let's just hypothetically say, you know what? Let's just say we kept our bias and we were like, you know what? If this says to sell, I'm going to take these sells. Let's see if our stop loss might have been hit. if instead of going with the buy, we just went with the sell. All right. So on this particular trade, if we would have entered for the sell, our stop loss would have got hit right here, right? Okay, cool. That's fine. We maintain a bias for the sell. All right, maintain a bias for the sell. And what do we see? We got stopped out here, but price continued to push down. This is the next lowest point. This is another lower low, right? So we're definitely in this sell environment. And what did the scanner do? It gave us another opportunity to sell. We are still within this blue area, right? We're still within this blue area, but let's say we enter this trade for the sell based on the scanner, right? Take profit one, take profit two, take profit three. So now from this, let me label it from this lower low, because I want to bring back that same, remember, same pattern that I showed you before. Price comes down, then it comes up, and we're hoping that it continues to go down. Where can I put this? All right, so we're looking for this to happen again. All right, cool. All right, so price came all the way down here. Then it just jumped all the way back up to our entry. Our stop loss is up here by this dotted red line. And like just about immediately, price started to push back down. Let's see what happens if we hold on to this, right? Because now we're in the trade. This is take profit one. All right, take profit one just got hit. And I'm going to draw this pattern again. Since we came from this, which is our lower high, right? I'm just going to keep drawing this thing over and over. Price pushed up to here. And then we were looking for it to come down all the way down here to give us another lower low, but it doesn't get all the way down. Instead, it comes here. So now we gotta wait and see, can we get another lower high? All right, it didn't give us a lower low here, but if maybe we can get a lower high, and then we see price continue to go down. All right, so if we enter the trade here, take profit one got hit right here. Then it pulled back a little bit, came all the way back down, hit take profit two. I think take profit two is here, and probably take profit three as well. So we are out of that trade. If we held for take profit one, we're good. If we happen to hold for take profit three, we're also good. Right now, we are not in the trade, right? We got out around here, out with the bag. All right. So now we got to readjust. So now this is our lower low. This is still our lower high, right? As long as we don't create a high that's higher than this one, I'm pointing at this screen. Let me let y'all can see. As long as we stay below here, price came back in this area, we could possibly see if we get another sell from this area. So let's just say we did. Let's just say we tried that. All right. Same thing. Entry. Let's see what happens. Whoops. All right. So we would have got stopped out there. Hold up. All right. So we did get stopped. We did get stopped out there, which is fine. Price pushed down again. Scanner called another sell. If we decided to take this one as well, take profit 3, however, in this situation is way down here. So this trade setup, this was a 3-to-1. If we were risking $1, if it played out, which it did, we got $3. This was also a 3-to-1. If we risk $1, well, we just lost $1. Cool. So simple math, we got $3 here. We just lost $1 here. And now we're back in another trade, still risking $1. However, if this plays out, we could get $6. All right, so price push down. We're waiting for this to pull back. Oops, let me draw that pattern again. So using these red dots, price came from here, came back up to here, and then we're looking to see if this happens. All right, so we got $3 over here. We lost one. We down to $2. We entered this trade, and then we got $6. Okay, so 2, 6, $8. We're good. Kind of worked out. All right. All of this, all of these sell entries, all of these times that we went to place sells, all of that was happening. Let me turn this off real quick. All of those sell entries were happening within this blue box, this area where the scanner would have called for a buy. Okay. But because we took into consideration what was happening overall, there came a point where we realized, all right, that buy was never coming. And when you get into intermediate and advanced, you're going to learn something called um, invalidation. Like it was valid at some point, but then when price continued to go lower and lower, it got invalidated. All right. So by the time we got the take profits on this trade, you see how these candlesticks are below this blue line, this blue box. Let me zoom in. As soon as we started seeing those candles below this blue box, that was then invalidated, right? We would no longer be able to get a buy entry. So what would happen is this blue box would actually disappear, right? The moment that we got, get the arrow, the moment that these candles ended up below this blue box, this buy would have been invalidated, meaning that trying to look for a buy no longer works. All right. But if we kept looking for those cells, then we could also have benefited from what happened with this trade. All right. And that's pretty much what I wanted to just go through with you guys. All right. Yes, it's going to take some time to get the confidence to use TradingView to help with your analysis, right? You might not be there as yet, but conceptually, I'm gonna wrap this up in like 5 minutes. This is what we're looking for. We go on the daily time frame to figure out what the direction is. The direction is we're going down. We're going to go to a lower time frame. So if we started on the 4 hour, we're going to drop 2 time frames, which is going to put us at the 30 minute, right? So we'll drop two time frames. We're going to end up on the 30 minute, and we're going to get closer to what current price is doing, right? So we zoom in. Oops. So we're going to see on the 30 minute, okay, can we see what the trend is? If overall the trend looks like this, all right, so we went down, we pulled up, and we're somewhere around here. Why can't I get closer? All right, so if we know overall we're going down, but when we look at the chart on the 30 minute, we identify the trend and we identify where we are in that particular trend. We are around C. And we know from earlier in the call that I mentioned that C is the place that we will want to buy from, right? We can't buy right now, but we know that we're in that place. Um, maybe you have the scanner, maybe you don't have the scanner, but maybe you've been practicing some of the information that you get, and you know, all right, I need to be looking for a sell in this area. You would then drop from the 30 minute down another 2 time frames. So from 30, skip to 15, you could go down to the 5 minute, right? Which is going to give you a more detailed view. Now you're looking at this right here, and you now realize that, okay, this was the high point. This is the lowest point right here. So now you're looking for this. You already have A to B. You already have A to B. You're waiting to see if you get B to C happening. All right. If you get B to C happening, this is the price that you would then be able to get your sell from. And you'll be looking for this on, let's say, the 5 minute or the 1 minute. You're looking to identify C. All right. And C is going to show up because B to C, remember, B to C, what direction is B to C going? This is B down here and C is up here. What direction is B to C going? Yeah, B to C is going up. But we want price to go down, right? So the part that this is the part where the patience comes in is knowing that when you're in this area where you're looking for that sell, right? You need to see you need to see the buying stop. The buying needs to start to stop. Just think of this like I mentioned, like the car. You need this to change direction. It was going up, you need it to come down. So it has to go through a process in order to show you that, yeah, I'm actually done going up right now. All right. And the last thing I'm going to show you, and we could probably pick this up next week with just looking specifically for this process that happens. price was going up, for it to look like it's going to stop going up on a lower time frame, it's going to look kind of like this, right? So price is coming up this whole time. It's going to come down a bit. It's not going to give you a higher high, all right? But it's going to give you a lower low, right? So something like this is one of those things that could happen. There are a few other things, but something like this is what could happen. Um, oh, actually, let me show you. There's these things called reversal patterns. So if this was, let me make this make sense. All right, yeah, this makes more sense. So all of this is going up. So this would have been a higher low over here, which gave us a higher high. Then we got a higher low. Once we keep getting higher highs and higher lows, we are going up. Anytime we get something that is different to higher highs and higher lows, that's an indication that something is changing. So this right here, we were getting higher highs and higher lows this whole time. That's price going up. When it reaches the top, right, and it pulls back, if you do not get a higher high, but instead you get a lower high, that is your first indication that something is changing. This is the first indication that we might be changing direction. All right. If this was a car, this is the car turning on the indicator. You know what I mean? It was driving straight and it turned on the indicator to turn left. If after this first indication, you then get something else that speaks more to what you see in a downtrend, which is a lower low, that's your confirmation number two. Right? This is your confirmation number two. Soon as you have this lower high and this lower low, immediately you can get your a piece of paper and be like, all right, so this looks like this is happening. It's like, I want to know if this is going to happen right now. All right, you got your lower high, your lower low. Your next question is this: will I get a third confirmation that you're going to be anticipating this thing happening? And you're going to say, you know what? Let me see if I get another lower high. All right? Because if you get another lower high, all of a sudden you have two parts out of that pattern that I told you guys about. Lower high, lower low, lower high. And if this was a lower high, if this lower high shows up, you know this is where you actually sell from. Let me know if that feels like it makes, let's say, anything around 50% or more sense. You don't have to completely get it, but let me know if it feels like it's 50%. Like you're like, all right, it feel like I need to see it more, but I feel like we onto something. Right? When you were getting those higher highs and higher lows, you were going up. Right? At this point, where instead of a higher high, you got a lower high. That is your first indication. That's the car turned on the indicators like, wait a minute, something might be happening. All right. And everything that I just showed you, right? This that I just showed you, all of this, whoops, all of this is happening at C. And that is where I'm going to leave you guys. Everything that I showed you here is happening at C. All right. So next week, what we could do is literally all we're going to focus on is just C. That's it. C is in a selling environment. You're just going to keep the conversation on these cells. All right. Let me